All right, gabba gabba, hey, punk rock fans. We're going to talk about deployment. By the end of this lesson, I hope that you too will be able to deploy front ends to Firebase and deploy back ends to Heroku. Welcome, welcome. So let's talk about this first one. Deploying front ends to Firebase. So a couple steps in this. We need to build our apps. Let's say a step 0 here. We need to install Firebase, build our app, and Firebase deploy it. So this first, step 1, we're probably not going to have to do just yet, but I want you to be aware of it. And for this first one, installing Firebase, all you got to do, is npm install g Firebase tools. Doesn't matter. Do it from anywhere.
Where?
Do it from anywhere. Firebase -tools.
Is there a space between G?
Yep. For breaking down that command, we are globally installing Firebase tools so that we can use it anywhere in the computer. Ta-da! All right, another thing we should probably do, make some Firebase accounts. Uh-oh, Dagio, hang on. Before I get off of that, did this workflow finish? Yes! I've been working on that for 3 weeks. That's very exciting. See a green box there. All right, so we got Firebase. Firebase is a Google product. Your Google account probably works. So I want you to log in with that and then go to your console. I want you to add a project and call it whatever we want. Flatiron Goofin. It does need to be original, so all of you can't use Flatiron Goofin also. You can.
So here we could change this key to whatever we want it to be, right? And we can keep our name a little bit more like we want it to be.
Yep.
But as long as the key doesn't conflict with anybody else's key, then we're good.
Correct. It needs to be globally unique in the entire world. So nobody else has named a Firebase app Flatiron Goofin. Lucky us.
And do we want to enable the Google Analytics?
You can, but you have to have an analytics project set up already, which I'm imagining you don't. So I would leave it off for right now. But if you set up a Google Analytics project for this, you can attach them directly because they're both Google products, and you get analytics for free. It is nice. All right, so give me a thumbs up if you got this far. That's not very many thumbs ups. Let's wait.
It's spinning. Thing isn't working, so I'm kind of staying in it.
You said this is just for front end stuff?
Yep, only front end.
Wait, I thought you said you were doing Heroku as well.
Take a look at the objectives. Front ends to Firebase, back ends to Heroku.
Oh.
And then you can commit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is it like, would you recommend like using Firebase first and then like trying it out and then going to like a hosting service?
This is a hosting service.
Like a more, like one that gives you money to like get for hosting service.
You can pay for this. This is what Develop Denver is posted on Firebase.
Really?
Yeah.
How much you pay?
$5 a month, maybe.
Do you consider Firebase like a good research?
That comes
Yes.
from hosting.
No, you're gonna need to like pay for that separately, but you can connect it pretty easily. Yep, that's a different lesson.
Between, like, what Firebase does and what like a hosting site does.
This is a hosting site.
Okay.
Yep, pretty much.
But you said Develop Denver was hosted on Firebase, but it's stored somewhere. Did I hear that right, or?
Nope. So let's draw a picture of what we're gonna do. So I've got, this is my laptop. I've got a front end and a back end here. What I want to do is send this front end to Firebase. I want to send this back end to Heroku. And then some user is going to request stuff from Firebase. That's my HTML, CSS, my JavaScript. They start running that. They need to make an API call. They make that over here. I would say 80% of the deployments that you do probably have this kind of shape. Oh, and then Heroku also, that has our database also. Yeah.
I want to ask a really dumb question.
No dumb questions. Hit me.
One thing that kind of confuses me is how front end and back ends they're separate thing, but you can reach them both independently
Mhm.
as a user. Like for
Sure.
example, how would I go to like there's the Google front home, like the Google front end. How does one go to the Google back end? For example, I can go to localhost 3000 and connect directly to my API. Can you do that with Google?
So what we're doing here, by the way, Brad found the one dumb question. I'm kidding. That's a completely reasonable question. So you've got localhost 8080 for your front end, localhost 3000 or something for your back end. Those are just two different fake computers running on your laptop. This is a real computer running somewhere. This is a real computer running somewhere totally different. The thing that you're probably getting stuck on is that whatever user is working with your app is connecting to two different computers, just like you connect to localhost and localhost. So all Firebase is keeping track of static files. HTML, CSS, gerbil script. That's it. Well, images, anything like that. Firebase isn't giving you control over anything dynamic. You don't run functions or connect to databases or do any of that kind of shit on Firebase. All it is a big stupid bucket of files that if I ask for a particular URL, gives me the file back. That's it. All it does. Yeah.
Is that why when you manipulate the DOM, nothing changes when you refresh?
Yep. Because you didn't change the HTML file. All you did was change the browser's parsed version of that HTML file.
Okay, so okay, cool. So some other hosting services, like whatever, Bluehost, DreamHost,
Mhm.
Twitter. So these allow you to store both front end and back end things, whereas these are separated.
Correct.
Firebase and Heroku.
So you could think of like DreamHost or Bluehost or any of those kinds of things as like a magic layer around all of this kind of stuff that just gives you a little clicky interface.
Okay.
This is one level down from that.
Is there a reason why Firebase doesn't do the backend?
There's a reason you wouldn't want them to. Well, you can do some of that stuff on Firebase, but you have way less control over it. You can also do front-end stuff on Heroku if you want to pay 10 times too much for it. Because with Heroku, you're getting like a real virtual computer that you can migrate databases on and like run programs and do all that kind of stuff. That costs a fuckload more money than just delivering files when people ask for them. So we want to keep those separated.
So both of these services start off free?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yep.
When would you start like paying for it?
So the way that both of them work is the free stuff has kind of poor performance, which isn't that big a deal if it's just us. You get any bigger than that, probably makes sense to pay for it. Also, Heroku, if you don't get any action on your Heroku server for I think 15 minutes, it turns off. And then when you make another request, it wakes back up. It takes like 30 seconds for it to boot though. So I have seen so many student projects that they're like, and check out this cool feature of my app. It's just gotta take a second. Whereas if you pay for any level of service on it, it doesn't go to sleep anymore. Yeah.
There's also like a way to just store like pictures on it, right?
So the way we're doing this with Firebase, you just push up a folder. That folder can have whatever you want in it, and it'll just serve those things up. It could be pictures, movies, HTML files, whatever. As long as it's just files.
And it doesn't support backend.
Nope. Like they also offer some services like that. Like if you say Firebase, if you're talking to a developer that was working like 5 years ago or so, they'll say something like, why would you deploy static files to a database? Because Firebase, hence the name, used to be a kind of popular, weird online database kind of thing that specialized in a terrible idea called three-way binding. It got bought by Google. Google, they still offer that, but I'd say that's probably the least used thing in Firebase now. Really, Firebase is just Google's static hosting service. There's other ways you could do that. So another popular one is called Netlify. Another popular one is called ZiteNow. Another popular one, like if Firebase is either too expensive or won't scale enough, the thing that you would do up from that is Amazon S3. Although if you were just hosting static stuff, S3 is probably the wrong choice because it's really fiddly. But if you, for example, needed some more fine-grained control over, I want to push the files up to one place and then have copies of them stored all over the world so that when somebody in Indonesia asks for my app, they get those files from a server that's closer to Indonesia than like Oregon, which is where this stuff probably is. Yep.
Yeah, I said pictures and I didn't actually explain what I was thinking.
Mhm.
I saw some of those projects that had like the feature that you click on the profile and you can take a picture with your camera or choose one from your phones. But if you decide to take a picture from your camera, that picture was getting stored in Firebase.
Probably not. Like you could do that with the Firebase data service. So if they were doing it, that's probably how. What I would probably do is post that to my API, which, make this a different color. Might do something like send this to S3 and then give you back a URL and store that in the database. That's how we do it on Develop Denver. When you upload a photo, you send it to our API, which sends it to S3, and then whatever URL it gives us back, we store it in the database.
That's Amazon.
Yep, exactly.
Is it complicated to use S3?
It's not really. Like all of the Amazon stuff is differing degrees of very difficult to use. S3 is probably the easiest, but the problem with S3 is that it's very, very easy to do it wrong. So every time you've seen something about a major data breach, there's a pretty good chance it was a misconfigured S3 bucket. Because the permissions, like setting up permissions on S3 correctly is so fucking hard to do. And so what everybody does is they just open everything wide open and they go, we'll figure that out later. And then they never do. And then anybody who's able to correctly guess the name of your bucket now has access to all of your files. Oops. Yep. Like, that's the sophisticated hackers and shit. They're like, I wonder if Home Depot's bucket is called like Home Dash Depot Dash Images. Hey, what do you know? That worked. That's the sophisticated hacking that's going on with a lot of data breaches. And Amazon has like increasingly done this like, don't do this. Are you aware of what you're doing? Click 3 times that you know that you're making this completely open to the public. And everybody still does it because doing it the right way is just too damn hard.
Did you do it right?
I did it the right way.
Can we request a lesson?
Yes. Yeah, we can talk about S3 sometime. You should know I'm not very good at it, but I have done it before. So. Cool. Other questions about this shape? Cool. Give me a thumbs up if your Firebase project is up. Cool. That's what I'm looking for. So the next thing that you need to do is Firebase Login. And it'll probably open up a browser. Have you log in with Google, and then it'll tell you to close the browser, and then you will be logged in on the command line.
Wait, how do you log out?
Hmm?
You've been logged in for like a week. How do you log out?
You basically don't. There's probably a file that you can delete or something.
Wait, so once you're logged in, you don't need to re-log in?
Like, not until you get a new computer.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a Firebase logout. There you go.
Allow Firebase to collect CLI usage and error reporting information?
Yeah, your business.
Yeah. What was the command after you in-game installed -v and stuff?
Firebase Login.
Okay, cool, thank you.
That'll ask you to log in your Google account. And then we're in business. Yep.
Segment. Permission to die. What'd you do? What'd you do now? So I'm already.
Uh-oh. Did you sudo npm install something? Press up. Huh. Curious. Type. Okay, go down. Down. All the way.
Yeah, I guess it is.
All the way. Cool. Now do which node? Like which node is it? You should have Firebase Login in there.
Think which node?
Which node? There you go. Strange. Type which Firebase?
It's like since
How strange. Okay, I want you to scroll up just a little bit. so do sudo chown, CHOWN. Yep. Space. Evan Greer. Colon Evan Greer. Space. Actually, and go back right before that and do a dash capital R.
Yeah.
Space, cool. Back over again. And then tilde slash dot config. Yeah. Yep.
Firebase.
Give your password.
It's literally the image from every time I rotate it.
And the next step.
It's a different
Cool.
object. That's a different image. It should rotate. So I have to calculate this and every key press. I have
Alright,
to
you got some
switch
fucked up
it.
shit happening. Let's work on that for this. Cool, everybody else. Alright, so let's talk about how. Back with me. Let's talk about how we use this. I want you to go to any HTML-y kind of thing that you have. Doesn't matter what it is. Perfect. All right, so I have this like nothing HTML project here. If I wanted to deploy this, I would type Firebase init. So it says, cool, what do you want to initialize? These are all the like different services they offer. The one we want is hosting. So scroll down to that with your arrow keys and hit spacebar so that the little circle lights up. And hit enter. And then it's going to say, do you want to make a project? So we've made a project already. We're going to use an existing one. And then we get a list of all the different projects that we have.
Firebase init.
Firebase init, I-N-I-T.
Is there gonna be like issues as far as if it's also a GitHub or a Git repo?
Nope.
Okay.
Totally separate from all of that. So scroll down to the project that you made. And it says, what do you want to use as your public directory? This needs to be, and this is important, this needs to be where your index.html is. So it's in my current directory, so I do dot. There's other things you do, like when you start doing React apps and stuff, where it'll be in a folder called dist, or a folder called build, or something like that. Could be public, could be lots of different things. But if it just needs to be wherever our index.html is. So if that's the folder that I ran this command in, I do dot. And do I want to configure this as a single page app? For all of us right now, this is going to be no. Once we start doing React apps, Vue apps, Ember apps, Angular apps, anything like that, that becomes yes. So we'll say no. And then do we want to overwrite whatever we have? No, we don't. Done. Yep.
Can you repeat that one more time?
Yep. So I did Firebase init. And then I said, what features do I want to use? I want to use hosting. And it said, cool, I want to use an existing project. Then I picked the project that I wanted to use. Then I picked what folder I wanted to use as my public directory. I picked the one that I'm in right now, dot. Yep. Brett?
How do we make change? Does this automatically make changes for us if we change these documents?
So you're going to see that it has almost no bearing on that. We can just add this on top of absolutely anything. They don't interfere. Doesn't care whether the files change, doesn't care whether it's a Git repo or not. This is independent of all of that. All it does is make some extra stuff. So,
I have a
Yep.
question. So you chose not to overwrite So Firebase already had like an indexed HTML?
It's a boilerplate thing that says like, you just made a project on Firebase.
Oh, I see.
But I already have an HTML file, so I don't want to overwrite what I have.
Oh, it's asking if you want to, okay, have the boilerplate overwrite your stuff.
Exactly.
Oh, okay. That's
Like, for example, if I didn't have a project already, it can just give me an index.html file.
okay. All right, that makes sense.
When you did what you want to use as your public directory, you
Mhm.
just hit a dot after it?
Yep. What does dot mean in Unix? Wherever I am right now. That's like a synonym for it. Dot dot is the directory above me. Dot is wherever I am right now. So let's take a look at what I got out of this. If you'll remember, I just had an index.html file and an app.js file in here before. Now I have a couple files. I have this Firebase Dot Json file. It made a 404 page for me. How kind of them. And I feel like there's another one too. .firebase RC. Yeah, give me a good ignore. Nice. So if I take a look at those two Firebase files that it made, Firebase.json is basically just the shit that we entered in that form. What's your public directory? So if you made a mistake in that or it changes or something like that, you just change it right there. Ta-da. The other file that it gave us just tells us what the project is. That links it to that thing in Firebase. Most of the time, you don't have to mess with these. They just are what they are. And here's the cool part. Are you ready to deploy? Firebase deploy. Done. If any of you go to flatiron-goofin, no G, .firebaseapp.com, you can see my deployed app. There it is. It's free. $0 in free cents.
And what if you do change your project?
Firebase.
So Chasey wants to know if I change the project, how do I update it? Well, I go over here. So I make a change. Firebase deploy.
Oh, that's it?
That's it. And now I go back over here, refresh.
Can you go
It's
back-
pretty fucking cool, right? Oh, sorry, Evan.
So it doesn't use is it pulling the CSS and JavaScript from your computer?
It took everything that I have in the current directory and put that up on Firebase. So also, if I go to that/app.js, all of the files in that directory are just available at this URL now. Pretty cool.
So,
Brad.
could you go back over, I'm sorry, I was missing the steps. I got to the part where I overwrite the index.html, or I didn't
Mhm.
overwrite it, and all you do from there is just Firebase deploy, because all of the files, okay.
That's it. Ta-da!
What if it just says like welcome, Firebase hosting setup complete?
That means you overwrote your index.html. Or it's in a different folder or whatever, but that's the boilerplate index.html that it makes. And if we need to change the folder that it's deploying, that's just in the Firebase.json file under public. For example, let's say I make a directory called dist. So nothing up this sleeve, nothing up this sleeve. I move index.html into dist. I move app.js into dist. So when I look at this, oh, it should move the 404 there too. So I've got this firebase.json file, and I have that dist folder. If I change the Firebase JSON file to make the public directory dist instead, now Firebase deploy. It deploys that folder instead of the one that I'm in.
How do you stop a deploy?
You don't.
You just redeploy over it?
Exactly. Still working. Ta-da! What questions do you have about deploying front ends to Firebase?
What is Ranger?
Ranger is just a file management tool for the command line. You can get it on Mac also with brew install Ranger. When you type Ranger, it lets you navigate through the file system like this. It's a lot better than CD, PWD, LS, constantly.
Thanks, Google.
Cool. That is deploying front ends to Firebase. What else you want to know about it?
Okay, can you go over that where you like threw all the other files into that one file?
I was just demonstrating that I had everything in the current directory, and so we can say the public directory is dot. I can also put them all in another folder and say that the public directory is that folder. That's all that happened. Yep.
So using Firebase is straightforward, and then is it like the issues arise from Heroku?
Heroku's much more complicated because it does a lot more. It's kind of hard to fuck up Firebase.
I'm sorry if you already answered this question. These files and everything, they don't hold any sensitive information.
So by the fact that they're going to run on your client computer, they shouldn't. Because some user asks for these files and you give them back. Therefore, probably shouldn't have API keys, passwords, any of that kind of stuff. But that shouldn't be on your client anyway. If it runs in the user's browser, it's theirs. They can do whatever they want with it. So secret stuff, like your S3 API key, that stays over here and doesn't get served back to the user.
Okay, so I was more thinking like GitHub, since this is like a public repository on GitHub as well, so they can see all of these Firebase files for
Yep.
HTML.
Absolutely.
And that's not a big deal.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, you don't hide that in GitHub or anything like that. Nothing secret in there. What else? As I mentioned, this is a totally different lesson, but if I go over to the Develop Denver project, go over to hosting. I have all the domains configured here. So developdenver.org goes to develop-denver.firebaseapp.com. www, which is a completely different URL, believe it or not, redirects to the same place. If you do develop-denver.firebaseapp.com, that'll take you to the same place. develop-denver.firebaseapp.com. Literally the exact same website. Yeah.
So we can buy a domain name and just put it over this, and then basically host our. That's oh my god.
That's it.
Oh my god.
Ta-da! Firebase makes this as easy as possible. It's a little bit fussier than you might think. I have some pretty good notes on it though. If you go to my knowledge wiki, it is under.
And you wrote all of these?
Every single one of them.
Docker.
Shoot, where is it? It's all public. DNS. It's if you go to github.com/kylecoberly/knowledge, you have my notes on absolutely everything.
And they're just.
Development. These are all my business notes. My notes on education stuff. I've got a couple economics things. some agile stuff, some design stuff.
It says the repo's empty.
The repo is, you have to go to the wiki. Every GitHub repo has a free wiki that comes along with it, and they're super nice to use.
So you're a Thomas Sowell fan?
I'm a hardcore Thomas Sowell fan.
That's awesome.
Let's see. I'm trying to find my.
How often do you update this?
It's as I take notes.
Oh, wow.
Raspberry Pi.
I love it.
Where is the
Kinda on your way, Aaron.
system administration?
Is it okay to use microprocessors
Oh.
in our capstone?
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, here we go.
Oh, yeah, but at least you're not supporting.
So if you go to my Route 53 notes, Route 53 is Amazon's buy a website service. I've got some notes, and then I have the steps for redirecting and masking the URL. That's how you hide the Firebase part of it with Firebase Deploy. Ta-da!
Okay, so what are some advantages to using another hosting service versus this?
So it's funny, I was just having this conversation with Denver devs this morning. Netlify is probably more popular overall. The biggest reason why, honestly, is a lot of developers just don't fucking like Google. And anytime they can not use Google, they will.
Oh, cool.
I don't know that Netlify is any less evil than Google is, but that's one reason. A lot of developers also just associate them with the database service, which is really innovative, but it's kind of like Mongo in that it has very few practical applications.
Yeah.
Netlify also integrates really well with Gatsby, which is kind of a popular static site generator right now. Zeit Now was super popular for a while because it's even fewer steps to set up than this. You just go to a folder that has an HTML file in it and type now, and you're deployed. Although, that discussion this morning was around how fucked that tool has become. I want to say that was in Code Opinions. Right here. Someone's complaining about something not working on Now. Don't use Now. Problem solved. It would be nice if it just worked, and it used to, but it doesn't anymore. You host your prototype websites in a document database. See, this is from today. These are conversations people have. You guys should be on Never Devs. Cool. Other questions about front ends in Firebase?
Well, how do I get to this page? It's on your
GitHub.com/KyleCoberly/knowledge, and then go over to this wiki tab. Yes.
Do you know about the one website GitHub gives you as well?
What was that?
Apparently, I forgot, I saw once, GitHub gives you one website, one website.
Oh, that's right. So GitHub also has a service called GitHub Pages that will do very similar kinds of things. It's not quite as robust as Firebase is, but you can make it so that I probably have one that's set up this way. But if you have a repo that's like that, there we go. So let's say I wanted to use GitHub Pages with this. You go over to Settings, and then GitHub Pages. And so you say which branch is that you want to use. It also even has some very Dreamhosty kinds of auto builder kinds of things. And then every time you post to that, you get a URL that goes with that. You can also buy domains and redirect them to it, but it's not like a I don't think it's something that GitHub pays a ton of attention to. So it's not quite as robust as Firebase is, but it's fucking easy to use overall. And yeah, they give you one that you can do things like hook up a domain to and that sort of stuff, pick a domain for, and then you can do it with any open source project
I thought it gave
with a
you
little bit
free
less.
domain name too.
I doubt that.
I think it gives you like maybe a subdomain.
I heard that like if you're doing just a resume on a page, like just HTML,
Mhm.
that would be the case use this.
Correct. So we're kind of out of time for the Heroku piece, but I want to talk through it a little bit. Yeah.
So the Firebase deploy command you have to use in the current directory that you,
No, you can change the directory anywhere.
As long as it's like its nearest parent, it's going to look for that Firebase RC file in the folder you're in, and then the one above it, and then the one above it until it finds one.
okay.
In the interest of time, can we maybe do Heroku tomorrow?
Yeah.
Maybe 30 minutes tomorrow instead of trying to breeze through it really fast?
Absolutely.
'Cause I heard it was a bitch.
It's rough. But conceptually, the thing that we're doing there is instead of something like Firebase deploy, you actually just get a different Git URL that Heroku provides you, and you push to that instead of or in addition to your GitHub one. So, for example, you may not have realized that, maybe I don't have it on here. So you can list your remotes here. That's Origin I have set to GitHub. There's competitors to GitHub, like Bitbucket. You could have git push origin master, git push Bitbucket master, and git push Heroku master. So you get another Git URL just like this. You post to that, push up to that, and then Heroku has like scripts that it can run. It goes, I see, it's a Node app, it's a React app, it's a Rails app. And it'll try to do things like your rake commands and some of those kinds of things to build this, and then it makes that available. And then when your users request this HTML file, they get it back, starts parsing the HTML file, it hits the app.js file. Okay, cool, give me that app.js file. Awesome, starts working through the app.js file, and it makes a fetch request to your API, which is now running there.
If you're running your server, does it have to be on your Heroku port to run your backend?
Yes, so if I'm making a request from this JavaScript file or whatever I got back from Firebase, it's going to need to make that request to somewhere. It can't make it to localhost. There's no way for your user to get to your laptop and get that shit. So it makes it to that instead. Now what gets tricky about this, and we'll talk about it tomorrow, is you probably have hard-coded your API URL, so localhost 5000 or whatever the fuck. And you still want that to be the case when it's running on your laptop, and you want it to be pointing to Heroku URL when it's on some user's computer. It's a little bit trickier. But yeah, this is a full-ass computer that has Ruby installed and whatever else, can run programs, connect to databases. Heroku even has a database service, pretty good free one, honestly. Develop Denver uses Heroku for its backend also, uses their free database service. We pay for Heroku, but we don't pay for the databases. Haven't even come close to hitting the end of the free tier on that.
Really?
Yeah, it's generous.
What do you pay for?
We pay for the Heroku service so that our app never goes to sleep, and like whenever we announce ticket sales or something, this is actually kind of neat. If I go to some Heroku app that I'm running, like Develop Denver, I have a multi-stage process, so I can push something up to staging. So I have a URL that I can send people, but it's not my actual URL. It's kind of cool. If I go over here, I've got some cool analytics, and I can even do things like All right, I got one dyno running, 25 a month. Is that honestly what I'm paying for that? Fucking A. But, oh no, I'm super popular right now. Why don't I just ratchet that fucking thing up?
Holy crap.
All right, so now I'm at $1,600 a month. There we go.
Do it.
So what? But here's the cool thing. I can do this. Let's say I got a Super Bowl ad. Let's say I just have a burst of really high traffic. This is essentially how many requests it can handle at the exact same time.
Oh.
So it'll handle 99 requests at the exact same time. Everybody else gets queued up. And if I were to run that for a month, it would cost this much. But I don't have to run it for a month. I can run it for a minute. I can run it for an hour. I can run it for whatever. And then pull it back down. That's powerful. That used to be an entire department at like a large company to handle that kind of scale up, scale down. Now it's a fucking slider. That's pretty cool.
How do you make money back?
Hmm?
How do you make money from all these people looking at your website? Is that way?
How do I make money off the people looking at the website?
Yeah.
Ticket sales?
Oh, for Develop Denver? Yeah, ticket sales and sponsorship.
So what's Docker? I mean, is it okay to move on? Are we moving on, or?
At the end of this lesson is what we're doing next.
Well, I mean, is that where we're at now?
It's a separate lesson. I gotta finish this one first.
Are you gonna start again?
Huh?
Are you gonna start again, or is it?
Sure. I don't even know what we're doing, so we'll figure it out together. Anything else you want to know about deployment for today? You can talk about more stuff tomorrow.
What'd you say?
We're gonna talk more deployment stuff tomorrow.
Oh.
Anything else for right now?
I slacked out.
Cool. Thank you. Talking about Docker in like 2 minutes.